Saddam! Hello everyone, welcome to another video on number 5. In fact, today is going to be a video on all the numbers because we are going to be going straight into creating the basis of what we are going to be utilizing from now on, the dictionary of numbers. This is something that we all recommend in every training that we do on numbers. We recommend the students to create their own dictionary. And today we're going to start establishing some very basic pillars of what the dictionary is going to be. And that's going to be very useful later on when we're going to be talking about any topic that we don't know about. And we were going to take a look at the dictionary to try to understand what numbers are within that topic. So something that I mentioned on the previous days, the previous videos, is that everything has a number and we can just identify the number in whatever we are looking at. Or we are hearing about, and sometimes we don't know the number straight away. So when we don't know the number, what we do is this: we go to the dictionary of what we already know and we try to correlate it to that. So let's go into that. Let's go straight away. Let's start. And the very basis, the very beginning of this dictionary of numbers is actually what we did the last day. Hold on. Just get this a little bit lower. In the last day we were working on the 5 elements and the 5, which is what we call the 5 tattvas, and the 5 senses. Well, these two things, elements and the senses, are going to be the beginning of these 5 pillars of the dictionary of numbers. We're going to do that in a separate page, though, even though we're going to put this again, and we're going to build it up. We're going to make it much bigger. And hopefully this will be useful for many videos to come. All right. So, and now I'm gonna group the numbers through the pairs of numbers, what we call voices. So that's the, oh my goodness, 1 and 2, no, 1 and 9, sorry. 1 and 9, 2 and 8, 3 and 7, 4 and 6, and 5 and 10. So these are going to be the 5 pairs of numbers. And let me just do some basic lines. This is going to be the beginning of our vocabulary. As I mentioned, learning numbers is like learning a new language. And before we can actually speak sentences, full sentences, we need to learn some vocabulary on that language. So this is the first ones that we already have. And we spend quite a bit of time to establish this. We were talking on the last video how the numbers follow a certain sense in a number of ways, and we looked at how the 5 elements are connected in terms of, for example, density, from more dense, less dense, less dense, less dense, 1, 2, 3, 4. So from more dense to less dense. We were seeing in terms of nourishment as well. So that would be like the air gives oxygen to the fire warms the water, and the water nourishes the earth. And we looked at this quite in detail, so I'm not going to go into that again today. Maybe I would just mention that when we were doing through the elements, we were doing 1, 2, 3, 4 in this order. And I mentioned that that's because that's one of the most basic sequences that we work with. You will remember this from the introduction to Karam Kriya, that 1, 2, 3, 4 and 4, 3, 2, 1 are the most basic natural sequences, but there is other 2 sequences, which is when we go to the periphery, 3, 1, 4, 2, 2, 4, 1, 3. And you could also find meaning in this, like, for example, the fire burns things into ashes. Ashes are like the earth, and out of the ashes come out the gas. The gas is like the air, and the gas can condense into water, into liquid. So you can see that would be going around the periphery of the circle. Yeah. So the fire burns into ashes, ashes produce the gas, and the gas condenses into water. And this is if we are moving on the periphery. So when in this diagram we can move through the periphery, 3, 1, 4, 2, 2, 4, 1, 3, or we can move within the lines 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, or 4, 3, 2, 1, and 5. So we already saw this in the introduction, so we don't need to do this again. But let's put it here on a table, like a columns, like that. So we would have the 1 and 9 would be earth, and 2 and 8 is water, 3 and 7 is fire, 4 and 6 is air, and 5 and 10 is ether. So right now I'm just doing a table for this, but I recommend that if you want to follow this course along and you have a notebook and you want to take notes, then you actually create a whole page for every one of these. I'm not doing it now because it would be moving pages all the time and it would bother the video. I don't think it would help the video, so I'm doing it all in one table. But at some point, we're going to have so many things here that you're going to run out of space. So it would be best if you had a dictionary, which is one page for every one of these pairs of numbers. And I recommend pairs of numbers. So one page for 1 and 9, one for 2 and 8, one for 3 and 7, because at the beginning, when you start learning about numbers, it's kind of difficult to tell the difference between 1 and 9 and between 2 and 8. And that's because they share a lot of common qualities. There is going to be a difference between 1 and 9, but at first it may be difficult to find out what are these differences. So I recommend that you just pair them up. But for example, let me just give an example, and I'm not going to do it for everything. I'm just going to give an example, and then we will continue like pairs of numbers. But for example, if we look at the Earth, number 1 is related to is the most dense, is the most solid. If you remember also when we were looking at this diagram, we were saying that the lowest numbers are more personal, these are more impersonal, this is more towards the subtle, this is more towards the obvious, more down to earth. It's like down to earth. But look, 9 is also earth. So what's the difference between 1, like a rock, a solid rock, and 9? Well, 9 is the most subtle number, is the highest number. And because it's so high, it's so difficult to grasp, it's even beyond the mind, beyond 7. That's why it's so hard to grasp with the mind. And that would be the equivalent if we are looking at the element of earth, 1 and 9. 1 and 9, 1 would be the rock, something solid that we can grasp. 9 would be like sand. Number 9 is many, means many, because it's the highest number before we go into 10, and 10 is already 2 digits. So this is the highest number. So it means many, many, many. Well, many grains of sand. That's what the desert is. So you try to grab the sand with the fingers and it escapes your fingers. It's subtle and it escapes. And that's one of the qualities of number 9, that it escapes our fingers, that it's difficult to grasp. So when we would look at here, we would see that 1 is 1 grain of sand, or let's say 1 rock, 1 solid piece of rock, and 9 would be like many grains of sand that are difficult to grasp. Similarly, with the 2 and 8, you can have like 1 drop of water and the whole ocean. Ocean is infinite. Yeah, it's almost infinite drops of water. What is the end to that? And you can go on, when 1 spark and 1 big fire and 1 breath of full air and the wind blowing, let's say. Now we can do it like that, more or less. So we can, as we become more comfortable with looking at the pairs of numbers, then we will be able to differentiate whether it's 1 or it's 9, is 2 or is 8, is 3 or 7. But initially, this is when it's going to be just pairs of numbers. So we have these 5 elements. This would be the tattvas. And the other thing that we did as well, is the 5 senses. So let's put them also in order. The first, associated to the first chakra, that's smell. The second, associated to water, that's taste. And the third associated to the fire. Fire produces light and it allows us to see, so vision. And here we can see why it was connected to supervision and the mind, which looks at the world and judges the world. 4 and 6 being air, that's the sense of touch. The air touches our skin, so touch. And 5 of 10, ether being vibration. We mean vibration by ether in yogic understanding. So vibration is sound. So that would be hearing. There we go. So these are the 5 senses. Let's carry on. We can do so much more. Some of these things that we're going to put in here are going to be the basis, the pillars, as I mentioned. So let's talk about the very basic pillars of Karam Kriya. Karam Kriya was developed by Shiv Charan Singh, and he says that there are a few pillars. One is the tattvas. One is the basic stages of development of a tree. So when we look at a tree, the very first stage, the first of all, is the seed. So the first stage is the seed. And now, as soon as we add a new thing to the dictionary, it should make sense that it's aligned with the others. Well, it makes sense. A seed, you can crush the seed to produce some nice smell. And, like pepper, you have a pepper and you crush it to produce some nice smell. And the seed, you have to plant it in the earth. So Naam, Sohail, good to see you. Good to see you. We are going deep into numbers today. I hope you are ready for that and you enjoy numbers, because we're going to go into this in detail. And I think it's going to be very enjoyable, the process of learning how many of these things are connected. This is the magic of numbers in action. To me, this is magical when we start to explore this. Let's see. So the seed of a tree, these are the stages of a tree. The seed is one, and it breaks into two. It's one, and it opens into two. And as it opens, some little roots start to come out of it. So the second stage of the seed is the roots. Well, the roots are going down to look for water. So the first stage is the seed. And you could say, well, the roots are in the earth. Yes, but what is the function of the roots? What do they want to do? They want to find water. And yes, they are in the earth, but you have to also assume and understand that 2 is 1 plus 1. Excuse me. So number 2 contains number 1. Number 1 does not contain number 2, but number 2 does contain number 1, which means that as we go into the second stage, it is natural that it may have some qualities from the first stage. So yes, the roots operate in the earth, but the roots are looking for water. So the second stage of the development of a tree would correspond to the 2 and the 8 and would be linked to water. And it would also be linked to taste. I mean, right now we are talking about a tree evolving, but we can look at this like ourselves, like humans as well. We all have our seeds and our roots. And our taste, what we like and what we dislike, is very much linked to our roots. So, for example, even metaphorically roots, not physical roots, but when we think about where do I come from, where is my culture from? Are you from a southern culture or northern culture? Are you from a more, is around, even your house, was what kind of music was played in your house? Where did your parents play jazz or classical music? Those roots are going to determine your taste as well. So this is also connected in that way. Don't just see this like, oh, it's seed, it's just a tree. No, this is also about us. The seed contains all the information of what the tree can become. Like an acorn contains all the information for a big oak tree. It's not just manifested, so potentially it can happen, but it's not yet manifested. So already many words come, right? We could write here potential energy, potential, right? Because it's linked to the seed. But you can also think about it for ourselves, having a seed idea, something that we have an idea and then we want to develop it, that could manifest, that could open up like a seed into an actual tree. And if you hear what I'm saying right now, and you were here during the course of number 7, you will recognize when I talked about how to manifest thoughts, the video manifesting thoughts, we said don't just go to the 7, because behind the 7 there is some ideas. Now the ideas are the seeds of what the thoughts would become. The ideas would be coming from the 9, and they come down through energy and time. They come down into thoughts, and then we start thinking about them. So you can see how seed ideas would be connected to the seeds of the 1 and 9. In this case, I'm connecting seeds to the 9 and to the 1. You see how they would be both connected. Hopefully it's clear, otherwise please ask, and if I need to go slower, I'm happy to go slower. Or if you are watching the video recorded, just write down in the comments. I answer any comment that people write in the videos. Sometimes it takes me a week or so, but I always try to answer them. So feel free to write in the comments if you have any question or any comment. The seed opens up, divides into 2, one opens up and becomes roots. And out of the roots, which are grabbing the water, now the trunk. And not only the trunk, but also the branches and even the leaves. I'm going to write an L because I don't want to write too much. But this is what is opening up. Look, vision. How interesting, eh? Up until here, it was not visible. You don't see the seeds of the trees. You don't see the roots of the trees. And suddenly, they come to the surface. You will recognize what I'm saying is kind of connected to the diagram, a diagram that we explored in depth in the course of the mind when we were talking about the different levels of consciousness. Sorry, I'm pulling a lot of things from the different videos, but if you want to go in depth into these videos, I always say where the video is, so you can go check it out in the course of the mind, 5 levels of consciousness. And you remember, all this is subconscious and unconscious, so you don't see this. You only see when it comes from the surface. And you can see now here earth, water, and fire. Now you can see how they are. This is what we have been working on. We've been over 1.5 years doing videos on all these things to prepare for this. And now for this will also help to understand this better, hopefully. So you see the third of our senses is vision. And up until now, the seed and the roots were not visible. Now, what is the part that we see the most out of a tree? Well, there's the big trunk, which also gives a structure. 3 and 7 is about structure. I mentioned this a few times already in the other videos. So, gives a structure, and the whole shape of a tree, if we look at a tree, it's a little bit like a triangle. Especially if you look at kids, when some kids draw a tree, they will draw it like this, like a triangle, right? So this triangular shape is the 3, a triangle. And it's the trunk, the branches, and the leaves. The leaves give the shape, the outer shape of the tree. So this is the most visible part of the tree. Now, sometimes visible, sometimes hiding, but within these leaves, in the branches, is the 4th stage of the tree, the flower. The flower. And the flower, look, the flower is linked to, when we see a flower, it's like, right? It's the beauty. And we feel our heart opening up, right? When a person wants to, a lover who wants to show the love to the other one and then brings a flower, like an offering of love, you can see it connected to the heart. So being it linked to the 4th chakra, I don't need to write here the chakras, right? being linked to the fourth chakra and love, that would be like the air and the flower. And the air helps to move the essence of the flower, the smell of the flower. The air is going to carry the smell of the flower to very far away, to get the bees and the many insects to come closer. Because the flower is the beauty. Everything wants to be close to the beauty and touch it, touch the beauty. And not only touch the beauty, because we see a flower and we are tempted to touch it, but sometimes touching the flower, we break it. So can we, rather than touch the flower, can we let the flower touch us? Can the flower touch our heart in some way? And that's the language of the 4 and the 6, something that touches you, something that touches your heart. So you can see this, the flower, fourth stage, 4 and 6. In fact, if we look at flower, we will see that the 4 and the 6, the 4 is like a closed flower. We sometimes do the symbol of this, and we associate it to the fourth chakra. And the 6 is the open flower. So it's up here. And I think there is a video, one of the very early videos I did in this channel, where we did a meditation and we were doing the stages of the tree. We were doing sa re sa 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 re sa 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 re sa 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 dang hara re hara 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 re hara 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 re hara 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 dang sa re sa 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 re sa 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 re sa 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 dang. It was open flower in the third eye, in the sixth chakra. And bringing what we receive, the gift that we receive, bringing it inwards, inside, towards the navel. So this beautiful movement with the closed flower and the open flower, and we're going to see this linked to the 4 and the 6. So, later on when we explore all the qualities of the 4 and the 6, for example, let's say art. So art is something that is an expression of the heart. It even rhymes, heart and art. And the art touches our heart. So there will be art which is more 4 and art which is more 6. There is some forms of art which are more internal and for ourselves, closed in, maybe like poetry, which is more inwards and very delicate and intimate. And there's art which is more external and opening. Because, the difference between 4 and 6 is one is internal and the other is external. The closed flower and the blooming flower. The closed flower is still protecting itself because it's not ready to open into the world. Shyness is very much related to number 4. People who have the number 4, it can be expressed like a certain shyness, not really wanting to open up. Some people tell them, come on, don't be so shy. Come on, speak up, open up. And if you have a predominance of number 4 in your date of birth, it may not be in your nature to be the blooming flower. You may be the beautiful bud that is not opening up. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with shyness, right? It's just there's a beautiful bud without opening up. So if we look in terms of art, this would be more like the inward poem that you write in the intimacy, in the darkness of your room, and nobody knows about it, where you speak your soul. And 6 would be more external form of art, something for others, more like dancing or some music that you are performing in a concert. So that's more the 6 aspect, the flower that is throwing the essence out there, throwing the beautiful smell. Yeah, making the concert is like throwing that smell for everybody to appreciate and to let it touch them and to enjoy the fragrance of that. So that's an interesting thing. Sadnam, sorry. No problem. Infinite Story. It's good to see you here. Good. We are starting to go deep into numbers and developing these 5 axes of numbers and going deeper into this in what would become our dictionary of numbers and trying to start connecting many things. So it's good of you to join us. Thank you for coming. Right, so flower and air and touch, this is all connected. And And there's one interesting thing also. I don't want to confuse you, but let me just mention that there is a connection between numbers. Some numbers are connected in particular ways. I mentioned the other day that if we understand the tatvas, it can give us some insight into a situation. So to see somebody and they are coming to you with an excess of water or an excess of fire, it can give you an interesting insight into how they are inside. But then what do you do with that? So numbers give you great description of how these numbers are connected. So number 5 being the number in the middle and 5 being connected to 10, number 5 is the number of marriage. We will see more about this, but let me just very quickly say, it connects two aspects. So marriage would be connected to connection, so to the 5, which is connecting. So because 5 is marriage, those numbers which are adding them give 5, they are marrying each other. So they go very well together. So 2 and 3, these two pairs of numbers, they like to join together, the 2 and the 3. And it's a lot of problems because the 2 and the 3, these 2 are problems and 3 is looking for solutions. We will go more into detail in this in another video, but we often get trapped between the 2 and the 3 and we avoid the 1 and the 4. So, but 1 and 4 also marry very well. So for example, the flower produces a beautiful smell. It produces the essence that then you can sense it from the smell. And that's when there is a good marriage between the 4 and the 1. We will see what that means later on, but let's just point this out, that there is connection between numbers. Are you doing anything with birth dates? Mine is 10-10-66. Yes, that the purpose of this training, of this course that we are doing is to understand numbers better and therefore understand also our numbers better. So we will go into the dates of birth. In fact, we will explore dates of birth on number 5. We will start looking at that and you will be able to understand more about what does it mean 10-10-66. For the moment, you can just appreciate we are just talking about the number 6 and you have the 66 in the year. The year is linked to the gift that we receive in life. So you have a 66 linked to the gift. What does that mean? We would have to explore in detail, to see what that means. But yes, we will go into this and keep it there, Infinite Stories, and when we get to the birth date, we will explore more about the different numbers. Because, anybody can be born on any day. So what does it mean to have been born on the day 6? It's not the same that being born on the month of June, this month that we are right now, is not the same as being born on the year 66. So the 6 in the day or the month or the year are going to be very different. So we will figure it out. When we get to the video on dates of birth, we will explore how is this 6 different in the day or the month or the year. We will look at that. But we need to develop a bit more of the language before we go into that. We need to go very slowly. And I appreciate all your patience, some of you who have been watching many videos, because it takes a while, but I don't rush. And you will notice this in my videos. I don't go running into things. I want to explore in detail and build up slowly so that the understanding comes in a gradual manner, so it's not really too shocking, and we can process it and integrate it as we get there. Well, let's move along. Seed, roots, trunk, branches, leaves, flowers, and then comes the fruit. The fruit will be linked to the vibration, the ether. Vibration is sound and words and hearing. Well, isn't our words the fruit in a way? We produce words and they are like a fruit. Like if we are speaking, I'm speaking right now for something that I have been maturing within me for a long time. I remember when I first received the seed of all this. This would be the seed of numbers. I received it from my sister and from my teacher, and I started slowly giving it some roots, watering it, giving it energy, giving it time. Remember the time and the energy. And as I was watering the seed of knowledge, it would become more clearly visible, and then it would touch me. And slowly, as this knowledge would mature and I would integrate it, it would become a beautiful fruit. The fruit are my words. As I am speaking, I'm speaking from what I matured around about what I learned. So our words are like fruits. And fruits, you see a beautiful peach, and if you are hungry and you are ready for it and you feel like it's good for you, then you're going to eat it. So as I am speaking, this is like offering a peach, and somebody will receive it and smells good, it looks good, I like how it seems, it's mature enough, it's for me, I like peaches, let me have a peach. And so somehow by eating this peach, the seed now goes inside you. And now you are going to start building it into yourself. This is how the fruits operate. So I received this seed from my teacher and my sister, who were passionate about numbers, and slowly matured within me until I became the teacher. So actually, number 5 is very much linked to the teacher. And within the fruit are the seeds. So from the 5, we go back to the 1. Yeah, from the 510, we go back to the 1, which is like saying 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, so it's like building up again. So but in another level. So the fruit contains the seed. So far, so good. I hope it's clear and I'm not confusing people. Because I already mentioned this, the different states of consciousness, let me just add them. So let me say this is going to be, I'm going to put a little star here. These are some of the main pillars of our dictionary. These ones are also very strong, the ones that I'm going to be mentioning today, but these are some of the strongest ones. Now, levels of consciousness, when I talked about this in the video on the mind, we talked about unconscious, that's asleep. Unconscious. Dreaming is, let me just connect it. Asleep is like the seed. The seed can be sleeping, and if you don't plant it on earth, it can live for many years. And if you conserve it in the right temperature and so on, it can stay for many years. And then one day you put it on earth, you add it some water, you give it some heat, and it slowly will start to produce roots and trunk and so on. But by itself, the seed can be asleep for many years. So sleep is very connected to earth. And when we fall asleep, we go horizontal, the closest to earth. I like to sleep I don't sleep on a mattress. I sleep on a futon. Not so thick, not a very thick futon. I like to be very close to the ground, also with tatami, just for, hygiene, a tatami and then a futon on top. And the feeling of being down on the earth, I find it very comforting. And when I wake up in the morning, I feel like coming out of the earth. So it's like branching up into the day. So to me, it makes sense. So this is the unconscious. Maybe I should. Well, it's okay. Unconscious. Well, let me put it. Let me add it. Sorry, I'm moving the camera here. So this will be the unconscious. This will be the subconscious, because it's where the water is. You will remember this is where a lot of garbage accumulates, in the subconscious. And that's linked to our roots and our water. And look, we are drawing from there. We are feeding ourselves out of this. The water is nourishing us. So if whatever is here in the subconscious, is not clean, we are going to be nourishing our mind from the dirty water here. That's why it's so important to clean the subconscious. That's why it's so important to meditate, because the meditation is about cleaning everything that is in this realm, in the realm of the 2 and the 8. The 3 and the 7 is the hypnotic trance that we think is conscious. We call it conscious, but it's actually more like semi-conscious in the day-to-day, living, moving around, driving, but thinking about something else, not really thinking about what you are doing, but thinking of anything else that we are doing in our head, and not being fully aware in the present. Being in the present, this is it. And this semi-conscious state, this trance state, is very much linked to the mind, is linked to vision. So we are seeing a fantasy that is playing in our mind. We are playing through the fantasy like that. 4 and 6, that will be the conscious state. And it's linked to the flower. It is not a coincidence that the symbol for the chakras as they are opening in India, it is a flower that is opening. The symbol for the consciousness in us opening is symbolized as a flower. So we put a flower opening up that symbolizes the consciousness opening up, like a lotus flower. And the more we breathe, breathe deeply, and the more you're stimulating your consciousness or your awareness, if you wish. And the 5th state, that would be C-square, consciously conscious, or super consciousness, or cosmic consciousness, or hyper consciousness, or there may be many different terms for this, but it's like the 5th, beyond the regular state of consciousness, like regular humans. Yeah, this is something higher than that. Well, if we go to this higher than that state of consciousness, let's look at how consciousness evolved through the planet. That would also be 5 different levels. Let's do it. Let's call these the 5 worlds. Well, the first world is the mineral world. Right now I'm doing all the work here. I'm just telling you things. This is the challenge about this is that this is not a course. If we were doing a workshop, if we were doing a training, I would ask you to place the different things in the different columns of the table. I would not be telling you everything. But this is we understand this is limited in this way of expression. I am talking, you are listening, you can write in the chat, but we don't have that much connection. I don't know where you are. Maybe you are driving, maybe you are walking, you don't have the opportunity to type. There's only a few people in the chat right now here in this moment. But we understand that if this was a course, you would be doing the work to figure out. We will have plenty of opportunities to do that. But for the moment, I'm just speaking. I say the things and I tell them, I explain them in the best way I can, that it's understandable. But feel free to interact with me. The mineral world is asleep. The earth, the rocks, they are asleep. And this mineral world, the next level would be the vegetable. Is that vegetable world? Vegetal world? Let's call it vegetal. The vegetal world is the world of plants. And it's a little bit more awake than earth, than the rocks, but still not very evolved in terms of consciousness. How conscious is a plant? Even a plant like the sunflower, which is moving with the sun. I mean, it's more intelligent than a rock. And it has a certain level of consciousness on a very, very primitive state. It's not thinking, oh, look at the sun, let me turn. It's not. It's mostly a biological process. I think is linked to a hormone which is activated through the heat of the sun, and it's making it turn. It's not thinking about it. There's no mind to that. It's a very primitive state. Still, it's more than a rock, so it already shows life. It already shows life, which is interesting because when we were in 1 and 9, there was no signs of life. A planet Earth, sometimes we think Earth is the source of life. Well, if we just think Earth like the desert, that's barren. That's not full of life. For a planet full of life, you need water, you need greenery, you need vegetables to appear. You need to imagine a lush forest or something like that. So in numbers, life appears in number 2. It does not appear in number 1. Number 1 is the seed. That is, could we say that the seed is alive? Not really. It's asleep. It has the potential to become something, but it's not really alive. It's waiting. When you put the water, in the proper earth, and then you add the water, now it becomes alive. So the number of life is going to be linked to number 2. And actually, as we go all the way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, on the other side, 8 is going to be the number of death. Now, some of you know that the other week I did a video on death, and I explored how death was connected to number 8. So when we look at it in terms of numbers, let me see if I can put it like this. I did a video on the cycle of the soul's journey, and I was talking about different stages of life. But if we look at it in terms of numbers, 1 and 9 are not alive. When we come into 2, you become alive, and then you move through life up until you die. And after death, our spirit departs. So this is the soul and the spirit, 1 and 9, and then life, death, and the beyond. That's going to be very interesting, very useful when we explore certain concepts. When we try to bring numbers into psychology and other aspects which we're going to be exploring, understanding that 1 and 9 is beyond life and death, and 2 and 8 is life and death, literally. All right, so this is the vegetable world. Sorry, the 2 and the 8. And the third, mineral, vegetable, well, the third is animal. Life has evolved, and now we are coming into the world of mind, and animals start to have a certain state of mind, a certain basic state of mind. It's a little bit more conscious than this one, but how aware is it? Is it fully conscious? Not really. It operates with based on the instincts that are driving the behavior, basically to survive and to thrive, and the different mechanisms that are driving the animals are encoded in this instinct behavior. And it's possible that an animal may be evolved enough to be already showing signs of consciousness. And you can see that also with animals which are very close to humans. They get kind of infected, let's say, with as the closest that they get, they start to get closer to human consciousness, which is, as usual, as always, karmic and dharmic, because in nature you don't see animals which put their head through 2 bars and then they cannot get the head out, because that's kind of silly. But you don't see that in nature, but you see that when some pets adopt these kind of silly things that sometimes it doesn't make any sense. In nature they don't overeat, but then at home maybe they overeat and then they get very, very fat. And so as that's the karmic side, they start to grab some of our karmic patterns. But also the dharmic side is that the closer that they get to humans, you see some animals and you look into their eyes and it's almost like a human already. Some animals behave almost like a human being. And we could say when they are close enough, the next incarnation, then they are going to come back as humans. So they die as animals and they come back as humans. And you can already see it in the eyes of some pets, some animals which are very close to humans. I think plants are more conscious than we realize. I recently got a MIDI device that is called Music of the Plants. It takes electrical impulses from roots and leaves and plays beautiful music. And plus, plants have shown a 30% increase in yields using the device. Yes, I mean, they are more conscious than rocks, certainly. And they do respond to stimuli. They have a certain kind of primitive nervous system in some way, and they understand energy. I mean, they are in the realm of the 2 and the 8, which is energy. So if you have a right energy in the room, they're going to benefit from that. If you speak kindly to them, they're going to enjoy it, and you're going to see them grow faster. That's for sure. Still, the level of consciousness of a plant is going to be less and slower than an animal, let's say. I think we can agree to that, yes? It's more than we often attribute to them, but still is less than an animal. And an animal, again, is more than a plant, but is less than a human. So we see that there is a certain evolution in the levels of consciousness through the different worlds, the mineral world, the vegetable world, the animal world. And of course, when we come to the level of consciousness, then we have entered the human world, human consciousness. And sure, if we think beyond the human, what does it come? I don't know. Let's call it the divine. This would be the realm of the gurus. Yes, they are like humans, but meta-humans. They are somehow beyond us, beyond our limitations, and they have refined our capacities and our intuition, our sensitivity, everything refined to a new level that we would say it's divine. So here we have five different worlds. Okay, let's explore another of these pillars. I mentioned that the Shiv attributes a number of pillars to the numbers. One that he uses is the Mul Mantra. And in the Mul Mantra, there is one, and in the Mul Mantra, you can separate 1 from 2, from 3, from 4, from 6, from all the others, 5 and 6. And you would, if you explore it, you can connect the dots. I'm gonna write them here. There's Ek, there's Ong, there's Kar, Satnam, Kartapurak, now this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is not 1 and 9. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now 6, Nirbhav. 7, Nirvair. 8, Akal Murat. 9, Ajuni. And 10, Seibhang. Guru Prasad is like the gift of the Guru. So all of this is like the gift of the Guru. That would be the 11. But if you explore the meaning of every one of these words, you will see how they are connected to this axis. Now, I'm not going to go in depth into this. If anybody wants to explore more about this, I have a whole course on this. One video for every one of these. And it's like over an hour on every one of these. Maybe not all of them are over an hour, but many. And if you explore a little bit about numbers, and then you go to visit those videos, you will recognize that everything I was talking in that video is about number 1, is about number 2, is about number 3. So in a way, we were already doing Karam Kriya, even though I was not so explicit with the numbers. But as we start to go more explicit into the numbers, we will see how they are connected to this. So let me just take, for example, Akal Murat is the part of us that doesn't die. Akal means not dead. So you can see how it's connected to the 8. Nirver would be having no enemy. So no revenge, not taking any revenge. Why? Because you have forgiven the other. Forgiveness linked to number 7. So you can see, if you explore in depth the meaning of every particle of the Mool Mantra, you will see how they are connected to the numbers. So this is another aspect that Shiv Charan will attribute as the pillars, together with the gurus. So they would be Guru Nanak, Guru Angad, Guru Amardas, and so on. You could, if you know the lives of the gurus, you will be able to also associate it in some way to these numbers. All right, that's another reference. And linked to these 10 particles of the Mool Mantra, there is also 10 spiritual bodies. Oh, let me see another message. Agri just thought that it was cool to share, as so many people have heard plants playing music. Yeah. Yes, thank you, Infinite Studies. Yeah, I thank you for contributing. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Bring anything you know. Please bring it in. It helps. Who knows? Maybe the plants are just communicating in a level that we don't understand, and they are talking numbers. They are doing a mantra course or a numbers course through their signals, and we just cannot hear them. And they are like, oh, these humans, they are so stupid, they cannot understand us. Maybe, who knows? Okay, another of the pillars that can help is the 10 spiritual bodies, as I was mentioning. That's some of the things that are going to help us differentiate what is 1 from what is 9, what is 2 from what is 8. So let me write it here as well. 1 and 9, 2 and 8, 3 and 7, 4 and 6, and 5 and 10. And the 10 spiritual bodies are the soul, which is basically like the seed in humans, the negative mind, the positive mind, protective and projective, neutral mind, the body, the physical body, physical, then the arc line, the aura, the pranic body, the subtle body, and the radiant body. So I know some of you who watch the videos. Infinity, Satnam, Namaste, good to see you here. I know some of you who watch these videos have studied Kundalini Yoga, and in Kundalini Yoga we study these 10 spiritual bodies, and this is a good way to, if you know about these bodies, then you can connect it to the numbers. Actually, this is some of the ways in which numerology can help us most. If you read the manual on the 10 spiritual bodies, it's very succinct but also brief in the explanations of what these bodies are. So it gives you a few clues, but it doesn't explain too much. But if you know numbers, you can go into much more depth on the meaning of every one of these bodies. And you can connect it to everything that we have above. So for example, the pranic body is about our prana, and the prana is given when we are born, when we are alive, and when it's lost, we die. 8. So it's linked to Akal. Akal is like the immortal part of us. So we explore our mortality through this physical body that has some energy. When the energy runs out, we die. So you can see how very soon you start connecting lines, and it brings some interesting connections. Well, what else can we bring? If somebody studies yoga, apart from the 10 spiritual bodies, then you can take the physical body and again explore the different aspects of the physical body. And we can see it. Let me go a little bit more in depth here. For example, if we look at the physical body, we could see that the innermost layer, the first layer, the hardest, the one that is more closer to the earth, where we keep the minerals in the body, those are the bones, aren't they? And inside the bones, we contain the blood. We produce the blood from inside the bones, the biggest bones of the body, the femur, and which have the minerals. And this blood is like the soul. Yeah, it contains the DNA, the seed of constructing the whole body. Is there. It's in the blood. It's in the bones. The blood is red. The red is the first chakra. So you can see how many connections we can see it like that. Well, if from bones we can go to the liquids, so the fluids in the body. This is the next layer. Fluids could include from the lymphatic system, but also water, which would become urine and things like that. The next layer would be muscles. And this is the visible part. The muscles are what gives the shape. If you look at a skull with no muscles, you see two different people. They look almost the same. They have such a similar skull. We cannot see the person in the skull. Maybe, with computers you can do a reconstruction of what the face could be, but we don't know the tone of the muscles and the actual shape of the body just from seeing the bones. It's not the bones, it's not the fluids, it's the muscles which gives the external visions. Is what when we see other person, this is what you are seeing. The shapes is given by the muscles. So we're going from inwards, from the bones to the liquids to the muscles. The next layer is the skin. It's obvious, isn't it? The skin is what gives us the touch. So it's so clear. Yeah? And then we have the hairs, which operate like an antenna, emitting and receiving vibrations, perceiving vibrations. Why don't you include planets and astrology in your associations usually? Oh yes, we could do it with the planets as well. It's just that I haven't studied much of the planets. I'm not an astrologer, and I've been with astrologers speaking numerology, but it's like a whole field. Studying astrology is like a whole different field. And it's just something that I'm not drawn towards, and I don't know much about. And I know there is a coherence, and we could relate it and we could connect it. And I think there is 5 planets visible at any time from Earth, I believe, in the sky, that we can see these 5 planets. And we can also relate it to the 7 planets in the solar system, 7 planets linked to the 7 chakras. And I think there has been a lot of research done on that area. It's just that it's not something that I've built upon. Partly, I think, if I have to be honest, it's because a lot of astrology is utilized as a means of making readings on people and trying to figure out when is the right time to do something, or when is the wrong time to do something, and when you're going to have a lucky day or an unlucky day or things like that. And I think that's a very superficial view of astrology. I absolutely think that there is something much, much deeper to astrology than that. And some people utilize what they know in that way. So I'm not saying anything wrong about astrology, but I'm saying many people, or let's say even most people who approach astrology, they approach it in a very superficial way. Even numbers. I'm very aware that numerology is also taken very often in a superficial way, which is not my intention. And we don't do readings. Something that I was doing the other video last week, being born on the 6th of June of 24, which is 666. What does that mean? Is that a horrible day to be born? No, it's just a number. And how you're going to live the number depends on you. The same way, your astrology is not going to make you in one particular way that you have no escape from. What I mean is that some people utilize astrology to say, oh, I'm like this because I'm an Aries or whatever. Well, no. Having a certain sign, or if you look at your astral chart, may give you information on some of the qualities that you may experience in life and how you approach the world. But it doesn't tell you how you have to behave or how you have to be. So some people utilize astrology as a way to escape responsibility. And I want to approach numbers in a way that is totally the opposite. It's actually taking responsibility and recognizing, look, I have this number, and it has a dharmic and a karmic expression. And I can choose to become the victim of my karmic numbers, or I can change the way I relate to them and call upon the highest, the most dharmic qualities of them. So, because in order to go that deep into astrology would require me really researching that, and it would take me probably many years to really get to that bottom. And I have to recognize my limitations. So Infinity, I don't know. But if you do know, and you wish to bring something to the table, if you want to bring something into the conversation, please feel free to do so. I'm happy that you challenge me as well every now and then on whatever I say. If you feel that something is not coherent with some other system, maybe from astrology or any other system, I'm happy to consider it and explore it with the numbers. I'm very, very happy to do that. All right, so we did the different layers in the body from inner towards the outer. We could also look at this in terms of the different systems of the body. So we could see, for example, again, if you're a yogi, this is going to help you a lot to explore the body. I will give you another clue as well in a minute, but let me just say there is a number of systems like the skeletal, did I write it right? Skeleton? Is it like this? Or is with an E? I think it's a skeleton. I think it's like this. The skeletal system, and there would be also the digestive system. I put it in the one because we receive solids into the body. This is how we digest them. And then we have what is this? The lymphatic system. We have the genital urinary systems, which is linked to sexuality, is linked to water, elimination, so that's the 2 and the 8, and purity linked to the 2 and the 8. These two systems. What are these? This is the muscular, the muscles, and what is that? The circulatory. Now, circulatory may look unusual that I put it in the 3 and 7 and not the 2 and 8 because these are liquids, but circulatory, the main purpose is to distribute nutrients to one part of the body or another. It's like a vehicle, 3 and 7, like a car, like a vehicle to move around the body different things to the parts of the body that needs them. So it's much more than the fact that it's liquid, it's the function that it has. We would have the respiratory system, basically the lungs and the other organs around the lungs, and the glandular system, which is linked to the warrior aspect. The 4 and the 6 is the saint and the warrior. So this would be the glandular is the defensive mechanism in the body, linked to it would be like the immune system is linked to the glandular system, is basically the same, but the glandular has other functions as well. But we connect it to the 4 and the 6. And then there's the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So brain and the nerves and everything that connects. Okay, so now a little tip. If you are a yogi, if you're a yoga teacher, how can this be interesting to you? Well, if you look at the day of today, today is 11th. The month is 6, 2024. If you add everything, is 16. Yeah, 1 plus 1 plus 6 plus 2 plus 2 plus 4, that's 16. That's 7, number 7. So the 11 is a 2, 1 plus 1 is 2, and the total number, the ending, is a 7. So today we have this energy of the number 2 and energy of the number 7. Well, if you are trying to decide, what am I going to be teaching today? What can I teach today as a teacher? Well, then, if you're a yoga teacher, you can go here, and you can see what do we have in the 2 and what do we have in the 7. And you're going to see, well, we have a circulatory system and muscular system, the positive mind, the aura, and we have the negative mind, the pranic body, fluids, lymphatic system, and genitourinary. And from these elements, you can be inspired to create a yoga class. So maybe you're going to be strengthening the muscles, some of the muscles, particularly around the 3rd chakra, the nabi, the navel point. You could be also doing some exercise for the aura, something like the warrior, the archer pose. That would be utilizing the navel point, and maybe while you're doing that, you are chanting Har Har, which is vibrating in the 3rd chakra as well, linked to the Kar Kar of the Ekon Kar. And you can see how it's kind of connected. I'm already creating connections to build my class. I will make my class very fluid. That would be the 11. But 11 is 1 plus 1 is 2. But 11 is different from 2. 11 is 2 1. So anything that is like 2 1s, like in the body, like parallel lines, like a meditation like this, or with the arms parallel, or any exercise that I'm doing that has some symmetry in the exercise, that I'm moving one side or the other, all these exercises are going to benefit even more from doing them today. So a student may not know why you chose those exercises, but as they are doing the class, they will feel that there is something strong in doing that today specifically. So by choosing the exercises and the meditations according to the energy of the day, according to the numbers of the day, the date of today, you're going to feel the potency of the practice is much higher. And from a perspective of those who are practicing, you don't know why. Why is it today more stronger than when I did this very same Kriya? I did it yesterday at home by myself. What a coincidence, teacher. I don't know why. But yesterday was much weaker. And today is much stronger. And yes, part of it is because now you're in a class, there's more students and so on. But also part of it is because today there's the energy of the numbers that are going to help to strengthen those qualities. So that's something that we can take into consideration. Another thing that you can do is not look at the date of today, but looking at the date of birth. So Infinite Stories just says, I am born on the 10th of the 66. Well, if Infinite Stories would be interested in practicing a particular meditation for a good length of time, let's say 40 days or 90, 120 or a year, then we could look for a meditation that contain the energy of those numbers. So the 10th, what is the 10th? The 10th, we know, is linked to the hair and the radiant body, and say bang, and which is, and the ether and the hearing. 10th is listening. 5 is speaking. Yeah, ether is vibration, is sound, but 5 is speaking, 10 is listening. This is like 7 is looking, 3 is being looked, being observed. So there is different qualities in that way. Well, somebody being born on the 10th of the 10th, they have a lot of this 10 quality. So it would be interesting, a meditation in which they have to listen. So for Infinite Stories, I would say any meditation that includes an active listening, that would be interesting. And I say active in a conscious way because of the 6 and the 6. The double 6 is linked to consciousness. So a conscious listening, some kind of conscious listening meditation, and Infinite Stories may benefit much more, and he will feel much more at ease and wow, enjoying that kind of meditation, and it will go deeper than if we choose any random one that has no meaning with the numbers. So hopefully that makes sense. Where are we? I feel like we've explored quite a bit. We can add many more. I'm not sure if I want to do that today. I think I'm going to stop right here. Let me just mention there is a few more things which are groups of 5 that I have already explored in different videos. One would be, there's a video on the babies, the needs of a baby. And I explore the 5 basic needs of a baby. If you want to go watch that video, is really interesting because we are constantly, let's say that we fall into our own inner traps, let's say, when our basic needs are not met. Infinite Stories says, possibly why I like guided meditation so much. Yes, definitely. Yeah, listening. It's probably good for you, and you may enjoy them, definitely. So the basic needs, if they are not covered, then a lot of our inner demons, let's say, wake up from there. So it's very important to know which are our basic needs, the 5 basic needs, and they are, if you want to go explore it in that video, you will see it, and you will recognize the numbers behind, even though I didn't speak them. I think I didn't speak them openly, but there you will hear the numbers there. And I think there is another video where I talked about the 5 thieves. It's possibly more than one video. I think we talked about it. I think one video was the video which was about the poetry from Rumi, Don't Go Back to Sleep, in one of these poetries. It may not even be in the video section of the channel. It may be in the live streams, and it was the poetry, the first poetry session we did on Rumi's Don't Go Back to Sleep. And in that video, we covered the 5 thieves. So again, another thing that is 5, and that would be connected to the 5. But today, I think it's enough. Otherwise, it becomes too much, and the head wants to explode. So I don't want to overload it. This is a great start. I hope you could follow along, and it would make sense. Any question, please ask. Just write in the comment section. We will explore a little bit more, and we have incredible videos ahead of us. I'm very excited. This month and the next month are gonna be cool videos. I think are coming. We're gonna talk about how to balance life, how to find balance in life. We're gonna talk about the date of birth that we already mentioned a little bit about that. We're gonna talk about the 5 different questions that we can ask. Super critical for anybody who utilizes their voice, like anything from being a therapist to being an educator, a teacher, from being a salesperson, from anybody who has to interact with other people, or you want to relate to your kids in a different way, to your wife in a different way. Having the 5 different types of questions and the effect that they produce, that's going to be super interesting video. We have videos on communication coming up, and communication between 2 people in a couple, so marriage as well. And I don't know, we have so much ahead of us. It's exciting. It's exciting videos coming up. Let's see how much we can do before summer. And in the summer, I will have different schedules, because July and August are months where my daughters don't have school, and I generally go on holidays or go to visit my family quite regularly. So I will not be streaming all Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I will be doing a different schedule, and I will mention it beforehand. But yes, I will continue July and August doing videos. It's just that the schedule will be a bit different. Infinity says, I mentioned something before. Maybe you missed that. Oh, yes, I did it. Sorry. What did you say? Oh, yeah. Numbers from 1 to 9 are related to 7 physical planets, plus 2 non-physical mentioned in Vedic astrology called Rahu and Ketu, and they play a huge effect on our lives. So the numbers from 1 to 9 are related to the 7 planets. Is that like the way that chakras are connected to the planets. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, like this. Is this the way? Like 7 planets, 7 groups of 3 numbers? Because I have seen the planets linked to the chakras before. I remember a book on Kriya Yoga talking about this, if my memory serves me. And then, yes, every planet would be a connection to 3 numbers. But I don't know if it works the same way that you are, that you studied that in Vedic astrology. But maybe we can explore it in another video, or feel free to write it down and we can talk about it in writing. Yes? But thank you. I appreciate anything that you have to bring to the table. That's why I'm doing these videos live stream. I'm not recording them beforehand and just putting them on. It's because I like these interactions and I think it helps us all. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone who was here. Special thank you to the members of the channel who are supporting it. I appreciate your presence, and also every comment that you write here. It's helping for the video. And there's another comment coming up. Don't go away yet. Exactly, they correlate with 7 planets, but also there are 2 extra chakras above the Sahasrara that are beyond the physical. Okay. So they include these other 2. All right, that makes sense. Yes, there are extra chakras everywhere. There's a very important chakra in the diaphragm between the navel and the heart. We don't talk too much about that one, but that's super critical. Well, thank you everyone who was here. So Hilton as well. Yes, thank you everyone. And until next video, until Thursday, Satnam.